Hello everyone and welcome to today's 22-minute webinar, Brewing with Electricity, the SOLIDWORKS Brewery. My name is Mike Farron and I'll be your host.
All right. Hello everybody, happy St. Patrick's Day. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is JP Emanuel. I'm a Territory Technical Manager for SOLIDWORKS Electrical. I cover pretty much everywhere on the east coast of North America, from northern Canada all the way down to Mexico. So what I literally want to talk about today is beer, and what better day to do it than St. Patrick's Day. So a lot of people enjoy that hoppy IPA like myself, or maybe a traditional Hefeweizen, or maybe one of those chocolatey stouts. But what actually goes into making a beer? How much time, skill, money do we actually dump into this whole brewing process? I know personally that I've probably spent countless hours researching and just brewing in my own kitchen, even though like many folks, my wife does not enjoy the smell of the initial brewing process. But if you do enjoy brewing, you probably started out with something like this little beer kit here. And once you get good at it, and you might want to take it to the next step, you might invest in something such as this. This is that's actually the kit that I have. 5-gallon bucket and all the tools that come with it. But if you really want to get good at it and you really start to pursue it as a larger hobby, you might start investing in something like this, the electric brewing system, where you have a legitimate electrical cabinet with a lot of automation behind it, as well as your kettles and pumps that we can hook up with by using SOLIDWORKS Electrical. So real quick, how I kind of came up with this idea to kind of go with brewing. One, because I'm a beer geek, and two, I just wanted to kind of start something new, create a new assembly, and I started with this picture here. But how do I get this and turn it digitally? Well, I went ahead and took some time and I built a digital mock-up of a brewing system that we had in that last picture. And from there, we have these electrical systems here. They're pretty smart. They're very efficient, but they can be pretty complex. So when it comes to wiring at the cabinet, we're going to be working a little closer, and we're going to be working with this digital cabinet right here. So what do we really want to show you today? What we're expecting to see here today? I'm going to show you a few short demonstrations on the various tools and features that are within SOLIDWORKS Electrical, specifically pertaining to the communication and collaboration capabilities between SOLIDWORKS Electrical and SOLIDWORKS 3D. And you'll hear me say that a couple times, is that communication and collaboration. Well, what we're going to really take a look at is again, that collaboration between electrical and mechanical. We're going to look at some of the intelligent functionality in the 2D space. We're then going to correspond that to the 3D space, and then finally we're going to go ahead and we're going to make our project deliverables and our reports, such as our bill of materials or to-from wire list. So we're just about ready to start our project here. We have to start with some electrical collaboration. So first thing we'll do is actually take a little closer look at how the electrical and mechanical side talk. And then from there we'll go in and we'll start working with our 2D schematic. And we'll work with this specific symbol here, and then from there we're actually going to create a new symbol and put it in our line diagram, which is more of a high-level overview document, but it corresponds to our schematic as well. And then from there, I want to talk a little bit more about our wires, which aren't just lines anymore. We'll take a deeper look in each different type of wire we're going to be using in our project. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start out in SOLIDWORKS Mechanical in the 3D space, and here we have our Projects Manager. This is where our mechanical and our electrical projects that are collaborated are actually stored, so we can open it from that window. And we can take a quick look at how I've custom formatted my project here, and we'll take a look at a couple of the sheets. This here is a line diagram, as well as our detailed schematic. Now I can open it from the mechanical side and kind of see and open that bridge between the communication between the electrical and mechanical side. I can't edit it from this side, but at least I can view it. Another nice feature, one of my favorite features, is the ability to actually embed spec sheets right into the project. So now I don't have to worry about going to a website, downloading it, throwing it in my server somewhere, and now when I need it, I can't find it, and I have to go and do that process over again. I can now take it, drop it in the project, and ready to go. So this is our project that we'll be working with. Take a look at our panel here, and in just a few minutes we'll be wiring this up. Before we do that, let's jump over into the electrical space, and we'll open up SOLIDWORKS Electrical. When we open up SOLIDWORKS Electrical, again, that Project Manager, another instance of that communication and collaboration between the two sides, allows us to see what projects are open. We have no problem opening it. We can go ahead and we see that same file structure of all of our folders and books that we have in there, as well as sheets that we have available to us. So the first thing we'll do in here is go ahead and drop in a new symbol. We'll take a look at all the different types of symbols there are. A lot of these are default symbols that come with the software. Very easy to make your own custom symbols as necessary, such as this XLR connector that I've created. So once I drop that on, I need to add specific information. I could go the route of text boxes, but I really want to use the manufacturer parts I have in my project. So I can come in here and using filters, find the right part, and just like that, I now have manufacturer part information associated to that symbol. I can go as far as adding extra information in each one of these fields. There's a lot of fields that I can use, take advantage of to add some serious detail to each part. So from here, we're going to work with our line diagram. I mentioned before that I like to use this as a high-level overview document, something that we can set up ahead of time for major parts in our project. But what we've done here is we've taken that part and we've corresponded it to that XLR connector that we have in our detailed schematic. And very quickly, I can go and use hyperlinks through the component tree, and I can go back and forth between each of these. Now, this really helps when you're dealing with something like a 55-pin connector, and not every pin is going to be on one sheet. So the next thing we'll do with this is we're going to go ahead and we're going to drop in some wires. So again, I don't call them just lines, they're actually wires because there's some serious intelligence built into each one of these. We do have the ability to make this, customize that to whatever preference we want. I did mine by gauge, but again, here we'll take a look at our properties of that wire. We see here, this is just pertaining to 2D space, and this here is dealing with the 3D side, where we can actually route a 22 gauge blue wire. And that will really come into play when we're dealing with things like fiber optics or pneumatics, or even the hoses that we have hooked up to our pumps. So real quick, what we did there was we just took a quick look at the communication and collaboration between the mechanical and electrical space. We then went in and we dropped in a new symbol and added manufacturer part information to it. We then went and we added another symbol and corresponded that to the existing XLR connector that we just added, and then just took a deeper dive at looking at one of the wire types that we have in there, just to show the intelligence, and we'll revisit that again in a few minutes. So some benefits of this is being able to communicate effectively, simplify your operations, and of course save a lot of valuable time. So next we're going to go ahead and we're going to streamline our process with some intelligent functionality. And this picture here actually is my boss's actual setup at his house. That's his dining room where everything is set up. So hopefully his wife enjoys the smell as much as my wife does. Anyway, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a macro, which is kind of a common schematic, and we'll dive into that in just a minute. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to use origin destination arrows to connect our sheets together. And then one other nice thing is being able to add manufacturer part information to multiple components at the same time. And finally, in this section, what we'll do is we'll create a terminal block, and then we'll create a terminal block drawing from that new terminal block we've just added to our project. So in order to create a macro, again, one of my favorite features in the software, we're going to pick the symbol, the manufacturer part information, all the wires, multiple symbols if we want to, highlight it and drag it over into our macros palette. We can give it a fancy name, and when we do that, now we have it available to us anytime in the future for this project or any project in the future where we want to use this particular connector. And just like that, I've added 2 new connectors within a couple seconds with all of the metadata associated to each one of those symbols. So let's add some origin destination arrows to all of those XLR connectors that we've just added to our schematic. And in order to do that, we have our kettles that also have some wires set up on it, and we'll use what's called single insertion, and we're going to connect these wires up. But one nice thing about these is a nice little design rule check that will not allow us to connect different types of wire to this. So it's, again, some intelligence built into those wires to help prevent any downstream errors that we might run into. So very quickly, I'll go through and I'll add all the wires, add all the origin destination arrows to these wires. And then we'll come back into our detailed schematic and take a look at these. And if we double-click on one of these, it'll actually take us to the opposing page, which is very convenient. This feature also, one thing to note is that when dealing with an SQL database such as this, if we make any changes to such as the sheet name like I'm changing here, it will change live on your drawing. So you don't have to worry about getting that hand cramp of Control-C, Control-V of copy-paste, or even Control-S in that case where you would want to save everything. So the next thing we're going to do is actually add manufacturer part information to these two pumps right here. So very quickly, I can highlight them both in my component tree. I can search for the specific part that I want. In this case, I'm looking for a specific manufacturer. If I know the part number or maybe even the power requirements, I can search via that as well. Find that part that I want and connect that, right, it'll associate it directly to those symbols. So the next thing we're going to do is actually work with our PLC here, and we're going to work with our terminal block, a new terminal block. So very quickly, I'm going to draw multiple terminals for this terminal block. And when I do that, simply select OK, and now we have a new terminal block, just like that, a whole new component in our component tree. This is where we would add bridges. This is where we would add manufacturer part for each one of those blades. And then from there, we'll go ahead and we're going to add an actual drawing. If we notice, there's a new sheet that just appeared in our project. We can come in and we'll take a look at that sheet, and very quickly we can see that we have a new way of organizing our terminal blocks. We have a new way of representing that terminal block to hand off to somebody like a contractor or even our assembly team that's out on the shop floor that's building these cabinets for us. So very quickly we went in and used my favorite feature, the project macros. I like to call them common schematics, something we're going to use over and over again. Then we went in and we added origin destination arrows, which one thing I didn't mention is that if you export these sheets to a PDF, those origin destination arrows are also hyperlinked in the PDF as well. We then went ahead and we added manufacturer part information to multiple parts. This is really beneficial when you're dealing with maybe 20 Molex connectors at one time and they're all the same part, and you're just dropping symbols in. Now you can go in, highlight all of them in your component tree, and add manufacturer part information all at one time. And finally, we went in and we added a terminal block and created a terminal block drawing within just a couple seconds to help really speed up the time. So benefits of this, as I just mentioned, eliminating a lot of manual steps, simplifying our operations, and increasing your visibility, because now you can, again, take this information and pass it off to other groups such as your assembly team or an outside contractor. So we're almost there. We're almost ready to start brewing some beer, but we got a couple more steps we want to do, especially when it comes to the 3D space. We're going to go ahead and we're going to insert a model that corresponds to our manufacturer part from our component tree. We're going to drop that into our assembly. From there, we're going to I call this that enlightening moment, that moment, where we can finally understand how the electrical space talks to the mechanical space using these connection points. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to route our wires in the 3D space. So the first thing we'll do in our master assembly here, in our high-level assembly, is we're going to drop in a new part. We have our power connector for the cabinet, and there's an option for insert or associate. This one we're going to go ahead and insert, where it's taking the manufacturer part from our 2D side, taking the solid part that's associated to that, and dropping that in. I've used SmartMates to help snap that right into place, and just like that we have a part. So let's close that assembly. We're going to open up our sub-assembly, because you can have multiple assemblies associated to one project, and we're going to take a look at this safety relay that I've dropped into my project here. We'll open it up, and we're going to open up what's called the electrical component wizard. And inside the electrical component wizard, this is where we would assign these connection points. Assigning the connection points is very simple. It's just a matter of finding a point on a plane. For those ring terminals there, or those spade terminals, I just find the plane I have in there and drop those in, and we can see these connection points. And again, these connection points correspond to the 2D symbol we have in our electrical space. It's pretty straightforward. And once we have those connection points set up, we'll come back into our sub-assembly here, and we'll go ahead and we will route our wires. There's a few parameters I want to double check and make sure everything's set up right, and just like that, I'm going to hit my green checkbox, and I'm going to let the software do everything for me. At this point, I would drop my mouse, leave it alone, and just sit back and watch all the connections go from point A to point B. What it's doing right now is it's looking at all those connection points from all those solid parts, and it's also looking at the connection points we have in our 2D schematic and routing everything from point A to point B. So if you were to do this manually, one wire at a time, it would probably take you over a week to do. I did this in about, I want to say a total of about 4 to 6 minutes total setting this up. Pretty straightforward. Take a quick look at all the different wires that we have running in here. Again, you can separate these out, and they're coming as features, so you can hide certain ones and route them in different directions if needed. It's pretty cool when you actually get a chance to route everything. It looks really realistic. So what we have here is what we did was we added that part. We inserted that new connector from our component tree, and we dropped it into our master assembly. We took a look at how to create connection points, and then we simply routed everything in the 3D space. The benefits of this is being able to increase visibility. Now, I say increasing visibility because, again, a new way to be able to communicate better to assembly teams or a contractor that might not know that you want to set up these red wires or black wires to one side of the cabinet versus the other side. You, as the engineer, can now route these and give your design intent and pass that off to the people who are actually building this for you, which allows you to simplify operations and save a lot of time. We're almost ready to start brewing our beer. We're going to start making our wort here pretty soon. But first, we got a little bit more to go. We want to create some project deliverables, and the first thing we want to do is actually go ahead and number our wires. Once we do that, we're going to go ahead and generate some drawings, and then we're going to take a look at all those drawings, all those reports that we just generated, such as our bill of materials or our to-from wire list. So in the old days, doing our wires, wire numbering, you'd have to typically start from sheet 1 and work your way down from left to right, and however you wanted to do it, and it was quite painful. With this, I select 2 buttons, and just like that, all of my wires now have numbers associated to it. Now, this is a very simple way of doing it. There's a lot of different ways you can set this up because remember those properties I was talking about in our wires, that intelligence. There's actually a formula built in to each one of these wire types to tell me exactly what do I want it to say on that line when I generate that wire type, that wire report. From there, let's actually go ahead and generate a report. So we're going to go to our reports manager and take a look at the different reports we're going to choose for this project here. We just have a basic bill of materials, a list of wires, cables, and even just a drawing list. We can take a look at the basic information such as the to-from information, and again, the cable by part number as well. In order to generate these these drawings, we're going to go ahead and select the ones we want. And if we notice on the left-hand side, all of these drawings are being generated for us automatically. It's taking all of the information that we've already captured in our schematic and creating reports from it. So now we don't have to sit in front of Excel for the next week making sure we didn't forget a back shell or all the pins for a connector that we might have had. So this is a very quick view of bill of materials. There's a lot of other fields that we can add to that. But one thing I like to point out is actually being able to capture the length of every single one of these wire types that we routed in the 3D space. This can be very beneficial because let's say you're working with some sort of custom cable and you need to worry about every little inch counts and how much it costs. So you can actually route that in the 3D space first, capture the actual length. That way you're not overspending when it comes time to ordering all the parts for your project. So the first thing we did there is we numbered our wires, very quick to do. We went in, took a look at the reports and all the different information you can capture from that. And then from there, we just took a look at the lengths, the various fields for length for each wire type that we have in our project. So of course the benefits of this is simplifying our operation, saving time, and again eliminating a lot of manual steps. I can't stress those 3 things enough. So real quick, looking back, I do have a couple more slides and one more poll question. What we did there is we talked about the communication and collaboration between the mechanical and electrical space. We looked at the intelligent functionality in SOLIDWORKS Electrical and how it corresponds to the 3D side where we can insert those parts we've already selected and drop it into our assembly, and then finally took a look at our deliverables, including the wire lengths. The overall benefits of this: increasing productivity, time to market, and just in general streamlining your overall development. So with that said, I have 2 more slides. One here is talking about communicating effectively between not just the mechanical space but the electrical space, as well as all the other teams, including groups such as maybe the group making tech pubs or your marketing team, where you can take advantage of things like Visualize. These are all just thinking outside the box and not worrying about just yourself, but there's the company as a whole and all the different pieces of the puzzle to really become successful with these tools. And then finally, just want to touch on this. Why did I make this brewery demo set? Well, The main reason why is because ultimately, one, I'm a beer geek, just as like my boss, and this is his setup like I showed earlier. But we're actually going to go ahead and we're actually going to use the demo set that I just made, and we're actually going to go and brew a beer using his kit because he does have this electric brewing system. And from there, what we're going to do is actually go ahead and create a mini-series to expand on this demo, this webinar that we're doing here. We're actually going to break down the brewing process into about 7 different videos that we're going to make. And then from there, we're actually going to go ahead and break those videos down even further to really nail down things such as tips and tricks and more detailed topics that we do cover in the mini-series while we go through our brew day. So if you're interested, you can stay tuned. We got more coming in the next few weeks, but if you want to follow me, I'm at Swecad on Twitter, SWECAD. Otherwise, thank you, and I hope you enjoy the opportunity to explore SOLIDWORKS Electrical, and happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody, and hopefully you get a chance to go out and enjoy a nice beverage tonight.